Welcome back. It's time for Norris Teaches Science. Starring Mr. Norris, Biology Edition, we present Meiosis in action. Today, by the end of the video, you should be able to say I can explain the steps and actions in meiosis. We already did. You should have already watched the latest video, the last video on meiosis basics, about what meiosis is, about somatic cells, gametes, diploids, haploids. Today we're going to actually take a cell through meiosis so that you know what it looks like. So meiosis actually consists of two divisions, if you remember. But before meiosis happens, you do have interphase. We're not going to take notes on interphase again because interphase looks the same for all cells. But there's two parts of meiosis, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, so that the end result will be the 4 cells. So let's talk about prophase 1. During prophase 1, the nuclear membrane or the nucleus is going to disappear. The centrioles are going to move to the poles, and spindle fibers start to form. Then each chromosome pairs with its corresponding homologous pair. So here's these pair, and then here's this pair. They're paired up. And crossing over may happen here where they exchange material, but we're not going to show that up here, but it does happen. After that comes metaphase 2. Spindle fibers oriented to attach to chromosomes. So we have our paired chromosomes, and homologous means they're same but not identical. So homologous pairs. I'm only doing this amount because if I drew all the ones in, say, a human, we would be here for days. So spindle fibers attach like this. And that's all that happens really during metaphase. During anaphase, the spindle fibers pull the homologous chromosomes towards opposite ends of the cell. One thing you do notice is that the cell does elongate during this process because during this first phase, we will end up with 2 cells. First meiosis 1 will end up with 2 cells, but remember the end result of meiosis is always going to be 4 cells. So this is kind of what anaphase 1 looks like. During telophase 1, the nuclear membrane forms again around our chromosomes that have been separated to the other ends. And in cytokinesis, it separates into 2 cells, but you still have the chromosomes. So after this first cytokinesis, where we have 2 cells, each one of these cells is going to enter back into prophase 2. We're going to have our centrioles at the poles. Our nuclear membrane is going to break down again. We're going to have our chromosomes in here. And the fibers form. And this happens in each of the cells. I'm not an artist, so they're basic. All right, so this is kind of prophase 2. In metaphase 2, you're going to have our chromosomes lining up in the middle of the cell, like you see here. And then We still have our centrioles at each of the poles. They're going to attach spindle fibers to the chromosomes at the centromeres, like this. So this is metaphase 2. In anaphase 2, just like in all anaphases, the cell starts to elongate. The reason why it's starting to elongate is because this time, instead of just pulling a chromosome towards the poles, it actually going to separate each chromosome at the centromere so that each side of the cell starts to get a chromatid. There's a lot of chroma words in cell division, as you can tell. And here and here and here and here. So here's anaphase 2. In telophase 2, the nuclear membrane starts to form around each of the chromosomes. I'm just going to draw them as a line because it's a chromatid part of the chromosome. And this is kind of telophase 2. The nuclear membrane forms around each chromosome. And then cytokinesis happens, and that's when all of them have their nucleus reformed. Their chromosomes revert back to their chromatin, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 new cells. Each cell is going to be different from each other. So summarizing the meiosis results are 4 haploid cells, each one different from each other. They're all genetically different. And in humans, each of those would have 23 chromosomes each. Now, after this, you have to have fertilization to get the numbers back to 46 in humans. That requires combining 2 sex cells, the sperm and the egg. But that's a little bit about meiosis. There's more information out there if you would like to know. This does vary. We've been covering it like in a animal cell, but if you want to know more about how divisions happen in plant cells or other types of cells, go over to the Google and just Google it. This is Mr. Norris, and I really hope that you learned something, and I am signing out.